Hey everyone, welcome back. I am so excited for today's craft that we're going to do. So we are going to be making a really silly, funny, goofy little turkey for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday. I love Thanksgiving so much. I love to spend time with my family, to make and eat all the food, and just have a really fun day being with people I love and appreciating all the things that we have. So I really do love Thanksgiving. I think it's really fun, and I really love all the colors of Thanksgiving. But I am so excited to be doing this craft. So what we are going to need is you're going to need scissors. You'll need a glue stick or white glue, whatever you have. Like I said before, I usually like glue stick just because it dries faster, so it's easier. And then you are going to need either a black Sharpie, a black marker, a black crayon, a black colored pencil, something black, because we're going to be using it just for a little tiny bit of our craft. Doesn't need to be a Sharpie, can be anything you want, up to you. And then you're going to need all our different pieces to make our goofy, silly little turkey. You can go ahead and check the link below for the exact measurements you will need to follow along and complete this craft. And I can't wait to see how these all turn out. So let's go ahead and get started. Now that you have all your supplies, are you ready to just make the cutest little turkey ever? I'm so excited, guys. Again, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. It's so much fun. We are going to be using lots of different things. I actually have more paper than I need because I wanted to just show you that there are different things you could do. And sometimes as I'm making it, I realize I don't want all that. Don't worry, I know right now these all just look like squares and rectangles, and you're probably wondering how in the world are we turning this into turkey? I promise you we will, and I promise you it'll be super easy. So again, this can be used as we're cutting for kind of like collecting our scraps. Don't throw it away, but I'm going to show you how you can use it for that. I'm going to start with our turkey body, okay? Because this is a good way to kind of get an idea of how to do this certain cut that we're going to do. So a turkey, if you guys did not know, is very round and plump. They're very fat. This turkey is going to be kind of skinny. Like I said, it's going to be a really funky looking, silly turkey. And it's not going to look exactly like a turkey, but it's a fun one. So I want to make this into an oval. So an oval, if you remember, is actually kind of round. Not sharp edges like we have. It doesn't have points on an oval. So I need to turn this into an oval. Here's the deal. I'm going to show you how to do it where we actually keep our oval about the same size as this. So I do want this to stay this size. I want it to be pretty big, which means I don't want to just start cutting, because sometimes what happens is we start cutting, we're like, okay, I can make an oval, and then you cut, and then you're like, oh, but this side's smaller, so I gotta fix this side. And then what happens is it started out this big, and then it ends up like this big, which I don't want, because then my turkey's gonna be this big on my paper. I wanted to take up most of the paper. So I'm gonna show you a cool way of doing this. So you are gonna need your scissors. This is sometimes, I know some people get scared because they're like, we need to draw it out. We're not going to draw it out. I promise you it'll be okay though, don't worry. So I'm going to take my rectangle. I'm holding it tall and skinny, okay? It really doesn't matter when we're doing this because it's going to be pretty similar. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking my scissors, okay? Again, not drawing, so just watch so you can see, because I'm not going to cut like you probably think I'm going to. I am going to cut off a corner. So I'm cutting off a little triangle. See that? I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Cut off a triangle. Now if you look, it kind of looks like a house almost, right? A really tall, skinny house. So I'm going to turn it again. Cut off another triangle. And turn it one more time. Same exact thing. Cut off a triangle. Okay, so now I have these 4 little triangles over here. I don't need them. I'm just going to keep it on this paper. And I have this shape. It's starting to look more oval, right? But I still have points. So now we're going to keep cutting, but again, not like you think, because we want it to stay big. So are you ready? You gotta pay really close attention to this. I'm going to give it a trim. So I always say, this is like giving it a haircut. I'm taking a big, huge thought. So think about if you've gotten a haircut before. You usually don't cut off just a little bit. Usually, sometimes we can go in and we get a trim, meaning I'm taking just a little bit off, which is what I want to do for this next part. So on all these pointy sides, I'm going to trim them. So how I do that is I hold my scissors and I'm just very, very, very tiny opening, stick that in, and I just cut straight across, okay? And as you can see, it's so tiny. This is how big I trimmed off. Super itty bitty. Here was my haircut, here's my trim. So I'm gonna do that on all those pointy edges. You can see already how it made it a little bit more round. So I'm gonna turn it and trim. Turn 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 and trim. So now I've ended up back where I started. Here's all the pieces I took off. You can tell I didn't really take off a whole lot. So it's still about the same size, which is what I want. But you can tell it's still not as round as I want. You could leave it like this, that's fine. I'm gonna go through and do my same exact thing and I'm gonna trim it a little bit more, okay? And this time as I go, you're gonna notice my trimmings get even smaller. And as I'm going, there's actually more to trim because now each one of those spots that just had 1 point now is 2 points. Pretty happy with that. Here, look at this. You see this? This is all that I cut off of that rectangle and I got my oval. So I'm gonna actually take this. I'm not gonna use these. Sometimes we keep the scraps and you can use them to do decorations, and if you want to, that's fine. I'm not going to. I don't need him just yet, the body, so I'm gonna actually set that aside. The next one I'm gonna do, I'm gonna work on the feathers. So I have, I don't even know how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feathers. Probably not gonna use all of them. I would suggest maybe at least 3, maybe 5. You could have more, you can have less, again, it's your turkey. So I'm gonna show you how we cut the feathers. They're all gonna be the same exact way, but I'm just gonna do one at a time. So again, this is scrapbook paper, it's thicker. That's why you might be able to hear it a little bit different, but they're all same size. I'm gonna do the same thing on all of them. So I am going to, are you ready? I need to make this a feather shape. So a feather shape is it's similar to an oval because I am going to need to make it kind of go around and then it goes up to a point up here. And then we're gonna go back, go down a little bit, around a little bit, rounder and round, and then to the bottom. So we're gonna do something very, very similar. I'm gonna take my rectangle. Again, I'm making it tall and skinny. And I'm going to cut off just a little triangle here, okay? And then I'm gonna flip it over because for my brain, this makes sense. You could do it the other way where you just hold it and you do it. My brain can't do that. So I'm gonna flip it over and I'm gonna cut a very similar sized triangle on the other side, okay? So now it's almost like the house. You guys can see that is not perfect. They are not even, guess what? It's fine. Feathers are never perfect. So now that I have that on the bottom side, I need to make it pointy at the top because I told you a feather goes pointy at the top. So this time I am going to cut a triangle, but instead of just cutting off a corner, I actually want to cut it so part of my triangle goes right to the middle of this page. So again, I'm just going to kind of guesstimate and say the middle is about there. Do you see how much bigger this triangle is to this one? because I did cut off more, and that's fine. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Again, you could turn it like this if you want to. You can do it upside down, you can flip it, whatever. I am going to wet this side because it is pointy. It's easier for me to start at where I ended. And then I'm just going to go cut diagonal down and have another triangle. Okay. So I have 2 little triangles, 2 big triangles. And now I have this very odd looking shape. So what I'm going to do is exactly what I did on my body. I need to now trim it. I did the haircut, I want to trim now. The only difference is this one, I want that pointy. I am not going to trim that, but I do need to trim this. So I'm going to go trim, trim, trim. Okay, do you see how much smoother that is compared to this side? And then I'm going to do this one down here. So trim, trim, trim. Still a little pointy, so let's trim it a little bit more. So again, here are all the pieces, so tiny. Look how much better this side looks than this. It's not pointy, it looks similar to a feather. So we're gonna do the same on this side. So I'm leaving my bottom and I'm leaving the top. So we're just doing the long sides that we cut. So trim, trim, trim. Again, you may need to trim it a little bit more as you go, and then trim, trim, trim. So if you have scrapbook paper like me that has a design, it is really hard sometimes to tell if it's smooth because the design just makes your eyes go a little bit crazy. So I like to flip it over and look, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I am going to put this feather side and I'm going to do it to the rest of these, okay? Again, we're going to do point in the middle, just cut our corners off at the bottom and trim. So let's go ahead and finish up these feathers. All right, so all my feathers are done. Have them all. Again, they're not all the same shape, size, that's fine. I'm gonna set those aside. Our next step is we are going to be working on our eyeballs. So I have both these. I have my white rectangle, and then I also have my little square that's about half of this rectangle. We're gonna be doing both at the same time. So what we're gonna start with first is I'm gonna take this rectangle, okay? I'm gonna make it tall and skinny. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top, okay? I'm gonna fold it down to my belly, and I'm going to match up my corners because I wanna fold this in half. So I'm gonna do corner to corner, and then sides to sides, and then I kind of press it down. Press it down, and now I have a little square that opens up. This is really good because, are you ready? I'm gonna stick my square, the other one, inside. Yours may not be purple, it could be a different color, and that's fine. So now I have almost like a little book, it looks like, and that's great. I'm gonna keep it like that. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna be making a circle cut. So a circle cut is where I am taking my square and I'm making it a circle. And again, before you start just cutting it, I want you to stop and follow our directions because we're going to be very similar to our oval that we made, because I want it to be about this size still. I don't want my circle to be little, and circles are hard to cut. Circles are hard to draw, honestly, but they're also very hard to cut. So we are going to be cutting into a circle. I'm not drawing anything, I'm just using my scissors. So again, you're going to have, it's really 3 squares, doesn't look like it though. We're gonna have them all together. And I'm doing this because instead of having to do 3 different circles, I am only doing 1. You are gonna wanna make sure that you are holding it together though. So if you're not really holding tight, they will fall apart and you might have to do 3 circles. So it doesn't matter what side we start on. Getting my scissors. Just like I did on my oval, I'm going to cut off a corner, okay? This time, every time I cut, I'm gonna get 3 triangles. So there's 1 corner, turn it, cut another corner, turn it, cut another corner, turn it, cut, my last corner, and then, ready? We're gonna stop. And you can see it is like, keeps opening up, but it is the shape of a stop sign, so it's an octagon. I'm not done. I'm now gonna do what we did before, and I'm going to trim. So you guys will see that this time when I did my haircut, or I cut off a lot, it's much smaller than my triangles were earlier because this was a much smaller shape. So same exact thing though, I'm going to go around, and this time I'm actually going to cut every single point and give it a trim. Okay, so again, just a very little bit off. Hold all the papers together as you're turning it, because like I said, if we keep them together, we don't have to make 3 circles. We can just worry about making one, and then it's like a magic trick and it's done. Okay. And as you can see, here is all that I trimmed off. Very tiny, not a lot. Looking at it, it looks okay. However, I still want to go around, and I'm going to do one more set of trimming. And this is kind of hard because my purple paper was a little bit taller than my white. So I'm just making sure that all the edges are gone. See, like right here, there's a point that I missed. So it's good to take your time. This is not a race at all. Take your time and pay close attention to what you're doing, because you can find things like, I think I didn't even cut that one before. I didn't notice because I was rushing. So when I pay closer attention, I can see more details that maybe I want to fix. But it's important to not always rush and be the first. I say I'd rather take my time and do it how I want it to be done than worrying about being the first one. So I'm pretty happy with how that is. Now, because I'm going to be done cutting that, I'm going to open it up, and ta-da! Look at that. I have a circle, and I have these two that are still connected. However, I don't really want them connected. So what I'm going to do is I need to take these apart. You can either very carefully cut where they are connected because it is really tiny, or usually if I hold onto both and then I kind of pull, maybe not this time, pull, there we go, they come apart. So I have my eyeballs. Here are 2 eyeballs. You're probably wondering, because I said this is part of the eyes, what this is, because there's only one. Well, there's only one because we're actually going to do one more cut on just your colored circle. You're going to take it, and you are going to cut it directly down the middle. Here's a cool thing about circles. Circles, doesn't really matter where you start your cut because they're round, so there's no side. So these are going to actually be our eyelids for our turkey. So I'm going to take all this, set aside because I'm not ready to put it all together. I'm going to dump my scraps out again. And then I have one more cut. So I think this is probably the trickiest one out of all the cuts we did. And we did quite a few that were a little bit challenging, but this one for me is always my hardest one, because I'm going to take this rectangle and I'm going to turn it into 3 triangles. And I always have to remind myself, because I'm going to tell you right now, I already know some of you are going to be like, I don't like that. It's okay. It'll be okay, I promise. One of them is going to be a beak. The other 2 are going to be feet. However, I'm going to tell you right now, they're all going to be different sizes and different types of triangles. And sometimes my brain doesn't like that. And that's okay, because sometimes things are not always exactly how you like it, and it's still okay. So don't worry, I promise, when you're doing it and you're like, I want them to be the same, and they're not the same, it will be okay. So I know you're probably like, how are we turning this into 3 triangles? I'm going to show you. Again, they're all different types of triangles. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make our beak first, and our beak is going to be big. So I'm turning my rectangle to the side so it's short and fat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut from this bottom corner, and I'm going to kind of make like a really big diagonal, okay? Like super big diagonal. So I'm starting at this corner and I'm like ginormous diagonal cuts, okay? Here we go. Okay, here is one triangle. This is called a right triangle because it has a corner like this that is 90 degrees. So this is going to be the beat. Here's where I told you, this is the one that every time, even now, and I've done this a lot of times, still sometimes like, it's not even. Okay, I'm going to take this shape, which I'm not even sure what this shape would be called. It's a very odd shape, and I need to make 2 triangles from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn this section into another triangle. And to do that, I am going to go from this little point to this corner, okay? Just straight across. So, doing my best. It's okay if you get a little bit off like I did. Okay. So mine, that's not super pointed, so I'm just going to trim off a little bit so it's more pointy. Okay. So there's another triangle. I'm looking at this. I normally do really big feet, so like this is even bigger. But I don't want that for his beak because that's way too big for his beak, and I don't know if I want that for his foot. So I may actually turn this into, I think I'm going to make 4 triangles and we'll have an extra. So I'm going to take this point, my top point, see how it's kind of like a mountain, this top one across from the straight line, and I'm just going to go straight down, okay? So I now have 4 triangles. You have 4 triangles, great. Guess what? That gives us options for how we want to do this then. So we have all our pieces cut. Now we got to decide how are we putting them together. I'm gonna move this. Here's the thing about our turkey. Because our turkey's silly, he's a little crazy and a little funky, he is not going to fit on this paper all the way, and that's okay. However, I am not going to glue anything down yet. I am just going to put stuff where I think I want it. That way, if I change my mind, I can, and it's not the end of the world because I haven't glued anything. So I'm going to start with his body. And my smaller triangles are going to be his feet. So his feet are going to hang off a little bit. And I'm going to decide, do I want his feet under? I think I might put his feet under him like that. This is why I did not glue anything down. So here's the other cool thing. Because these are different triangles, you can turn them, and how the feet will look different depending on where you decide to glue them down. So you could even glue it so like it's flat and it's pointy. It's up to you. I'm not really sure. Kind of like that. I think that's how I'm going to do mine. Okay, so I'm putting them like that. Again, I'm not gluing anything yet. His beak is going to be like this. Actually, we're going to choose one. I think I'm going to fold it in half maybe. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to just change what I do as I go because you can. So I'm going to take this one and I'm folding one side to the other side because I think it'll be fun to have them have a little beak that opens up like that. You don't have to though. Totally up to you. So I'm going to do like that. Okay. I don't need this string. I'm going to set that aside. So I'm going to do his beak like that, and then I'm going to figure out what feathers do I want. Where do I want them? I don't want those together. Mine are tricky because I have different, some of these have different sides. Ooh, do I want blue or stripes? I think I want blue. I like the blue. polka dot. That one, yeah. I think I'm gonna do those. I think that's how I want it. And then, so I have 2 extra feathers I'm not using. I'm gonna do eyeballs. Here's the fun thing about the eyes too is depending on where you put the eyelids, so sometimes I've seen people do it this way, sometimes they're up top. It changes how your turkey looks. So I think that's kind of how I want my turkey to be. So here's why I did place everything before I glued it, because you could see I kept changing stuff and moving it, deciding how I wanted it to face. And if I glued everything down as I went, I couldn't do that. So now what I do is I'm going to just scooch him up a little bit, just a little. And I'm going to start gluing down the pieces and doing the pieces that I know down here. So before I begin, I do need to do one more thing to my eyes. So I originally told you do need something black. I just have a Sharpie. I'm going to do little pupils in his eyes. So you can either decide, like, do I want his pupils down here? Do I want the eyelid to cover it? I'm not sure. I think I'm going to do it down here. Okay, so I'm going to draw one circle, and then I'm going to make mine both in the same spot. You do not need to. So all I'm doing is drawing a circle and filling it in. If you don't have a Sharpie, again, you can use colored pencil, crayons, markers, whatever you have. It doesn't even need to be black. I've seen lots of different colored pupils. So now that I have my little eyes, I guess I can figure out how do I want my eyes to go. So if I do it this way, he kind of looks worried. Might look mad. Might look crazy. I don't know. And then it also depends on where the eyelids go. So he kind of looks worried again, angry. Looking one way. I'm not really sure. So I'm just going to glue them down. I don't really have a plan today. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. Glue an eyelid on. I can still change what direction I do. This one I'm going to glue this way, I guess. Again, this is really just however you feel like. Okay. Ta-da! You have a silly, funky, crazy little turkey that hopefully you enjoyed making, and hopefully you enjoy hanging up and decorating with, because he is just the cutest little thing. Love him so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I can't wait to see all of the turkeys that everyone made. Make sure to follow along for other fun projects and crafts and art and all different things that we do. Can't wait to see you guys next time.